Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Single Chronicles. I'm your girl, R.S. Lewis, aka Insomniac Writer, and today we are talking about no, the word no, and what it means to say it, feel it, and just stand behind it. But most importantly, why it's a part of self-care. Now, if you're new here, make sure you favorite, save, heart, whatever you got to do to this podcast, wherever you're streaming it at, so you can be notified of future episodes and be in the know. If you're watching here on YouTube, then make sure you comment, like, subscribe to my channel, but most importantly, hit that bell so you can be notified of future videos and stuff. For everybody else, welcome to the Single Chronicles. Hey, hey. Missing someone. Missing someone. I'm sorry. I'm just too excited right now. I think I had coffee late in the day, but I want to get through this podcast. Okay, saying no and why it's self-care. I know I've talked about this like a gazillion times, not just here, just in general. And it's something that I'm still working on. No matter how many times I say, I'm going to do the self-care thing, I'm going to work on me, I'm yada, 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 and I'm going to say no, I'm going to set boundaries. No matter how many times I say it, every now and again I look back, I'm like, you know what, I could have said no. I shouldn't have did that. Why did I say yes? You know what I mean? Like, it always comes up. So, I wanted to discuss that today because it's very important. Now, you can go on YouTube, you can go on Google, you can go wherever and like look up why is no self-care and why it's saying no is not selfish or why self-care isn't selfish. But the reason why I'm talking about it again today is because, and I don't want to be too cryptic for everybody out there, but I usually get these little horoscopes on like Spotify, different places. Every day I hear a different horoscope. And regardless if I take stock into it or not, I got a horoscope saying that, I had to set priorities and set limits. Then a friend of mine, she's a fellow Zumba instructor in New York, and she was just like, she did the self-care tarot, and she was saying how like the moon and the stars and Mercury, I don't know what the stars was doing, but in the planets was doing, but something about self-care was very adherent, and it was like, you got to take some time out for you. And I was like, that makes sense. Because I'm always so boggled down with stuff. And it kept coming back. And it was like the universe was trying to tell me something. And I was like, all right, I'm going to say no. So around that same time frame, my mother was like, can you take me to Maryland? I don't even know what I would think I was literally walking out the door to go somewhere, and I hadn't eaten anything that day. This was actually Thursday. This was yesterday. So I'm recording here on Friday. You guys are watching this next week, but on YouTube. But I was on my way out the door, and I was just like, and this is before I even, like, she asked me, let me see, I came up with this topic yesterday, the day before yesterday, but she had asked me that, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't. I literally had a lot of stuff going on, but that really wasn't what even pushed me closer to this topic. Like, I was just like, no. You know what I mean? I've gotten used to saying no to my mom. It's not easy to say no to people you love or you live with or you care about because, it's kind of love with relatives and stuff is like transactional. I grew up in a transactional household, so to speak. It's like, well, I raised you. I did this. You got to say yes to me now, and I saw a video on, I think it was like TikTok, that I was like, he was playing a role of like the old parent being put in a nursing home, and he was just like, it was kind of satire, but he was like, the parent was like, yeah, I raised you, I took care of you, and the homie was like, you did what the fuck you was supposed to do, like, you know what I mean? And it becomes a thing, a habit that we do things out of, obligation. And don't get me wrong, like, that's just the way the world is. Like, that's the way humans are. We do things for other people because we feel that we have to. And it's, at the end of the day, it's not completely 100% wrong with it. Like, even at work, like, there's nothing wrong with me saying, you know what? I have to do X, Y, and Z for somebody, at work. Like my boss would say, hey, I need you to knock out this stuff. Even though it's not really in my job description. Sometimes I'll do it, and sometimes I'll be in the back of my like, what the fuck did I say? Yes, God damn it, now I'm here all late. And especially when the pandemic hit, you know what I mean? We really, really lowered what it meant to have boundaries, or those boundaries got stretched the hell out. Because now they let go half the people at the organization. Now we all doing extra work. All right, well, things getting back to normal. Are we going to hire these people back? Because y'all still got me doing other people's stuff. And that was the consensus with a lot of jobs and a lot of people. And then it just got to a point where it just added to the mundane want to not be here. Now I'm searching for reasons as to why I even want to punch in the first place. Don't get me wrong, I love my job, but everybody was kind of feeling that. First of all, we all got to get used to going back, because we spent the better part of 2 years home, and or not working or whatever, and now it's like this whole transition of going back. For some people, you had to, especially like people that were essential workers. Like, you have to, it's the duty, you got it. Like, so now, like I said, it's back to that transactional duty. I have to do it, or no one else is going to do it. But that's actually not the truth. There's always someone else that's going to be able to do it. Now, you don't want to be in a situation where you're just saying no to be an asshole, but you're saying no because I can't, I'm tired, or my kids need me, or whatever. Like, and I ran into that during the pandemic. Like, I had to teach this Zumba class online. I had to do this and I had to do that. I got to keep putting content out there, or, I'm getting lost in the algorithm and this and that. We get lost in these things. But like I said, it isn't about the things we have to do for others that I want to discuss. And it's not that boundary that I want to discuss today with other people. It's with ourselves. Like, how often do we get put in a situation where, like me personally, I run my wellness shop, I sell merch online, I do this, so naturally I have to promote it, I have to do this. So, and these are things that I did for me. These aren't things that I'm asking anybody to help me out with. But then it comes a time when I got to ask myself, hey, Bruce, you know what? You don't have to do this. I remember a couple weeks ago, I left the studio, went home, changed my clothes, was like ready to go to the gym. This was like what I do every Friday. And I was like, all right, got to the gym, got on the elliptical to warm up a little bit. And I was about to walk over to the weights, get my I was like, yeah, I got to work on chest and my arms. And I was like, you know what? I don't feel like it. I went on a little, Planet Fitness, got the massage chairs. I got and put that thing back home. He set it for 20 minutes. Usually they only give you 10. But it's Friday night, so the gym was empty. He set that sucker for 20 minutes. And I was like, yes. And then I went home. I think and there was a time where I had to listen to my body. And I was just explaining this to someone else. And they're like, well, physically, yada, yada, yada. I said, sometimes listening to your body isn't just the physical. It's not just saying, all right, I'm physically exhausted, so I'm not going to go to the gym, or I'm physically exhausted, so I'm not going to go out tonight. Sometimes it's a mental exhaustion that we don't even know that we're aware of until we feel the burnout. And that's what happened to me in 2020. Like, I was fucking burnt out. There was no separation of duties. So, I was always home, number one. So it's like, all right, I'm home. And I would get up, get on the laptop, log in, start checking emails and this, that, and doing whatever I got to do. And then at some point, it was like, I'm still doing it. And it's like 9, 10 o'clock. Why the fuck am I still working? Don't get me wrong. I still had a lot of work to do. We all did. But it was like, there was no, separation. There was no division, and there was no shutting it off in my brain, because like before the shutdown and now and back to now, it was like, you get up, you go to work, you come home, do what you got to do in your home duties. But there's always that, that breakdown, that wall, and that barrier between it, and that barrier, that boundary was completely gone. And now we're in this phase of trying to set those barriers and boundaries back up. Setting limits and saying no is self-care. It's not selfish, even if it's with yourself. Like, I literally have to tell myself that all the time, and I'm working on that to say, because I already came to the realization about the over hyper activityness and yada yada yada, and how this kind of plays into the Single Chronicles. I'm gonna get into. Give me just a moment. Time is precious. Like, it's the one fucking thing you can never get back. Like, if I go to the casino tonight and gamble my whole paycheck, all my fucking money, at the end of the day, 2 weeks from now, I still got another paycheck coming. Well, technically, next week because I got paid last week. But the point is, 2 weeks from now, whenever, I got another paycheck coming. And even if I didn't have my job where I can depend on this paycheck every 2 weeks, I still got these hustles. All right, I know somebody's coming to class, or I know someone's going to hit me up for some juices, or I know that I can go out here and make more money. Shit, push come to shove, I'd sell my ass. Not that I'm going to do that, people, but I'm saying there's always the opportunity to make more money somehow, some way. Like, your back is to the wall, you want to figure out fish, fried chicken. Look, I know I don't eat meat no more, but guess what? I will be cooking the hell out of some chicken and having a chicken, fish fry, whatever, whatever. So that's where I am right now, prioritizing this, the mental. And if you don't prioritize your time, if you don't prioritize what really is important, you know what I mean, you're going to miss out. Like, a lot of times, like, I would think it was what's the comedian? I can't even remember her name, but Monique. So she was saying how she, focused so much on her career. Now, she's looking back, menopause, whatever, whatever. Then she went to kids, and she didn't really focus on the family aspect. So she got married. But by then, like I said, menopause. Now, women, we have that time frame. We got that cap. Like, if you don't do it within this certain amount of time, it's not going to happen. I mean, you can go out adopt, you can get foster kids, you can get someone's fertilized egg put inside it, whatever. Just think science. You could science it, whatever. But the point is that whole thing of giving birth to your child, bringing someone into this world, procreating with the person that you love. It's that whole experience that menopause, once that happens, you just don't have that opportunity no more. And, as things progress in the world of medicine and oddities, those things might change. But traditionally, as of now, we have a biological clock. And when that thing counts down, like mine is counting down now. Like, when I ovulate. And I'm like, oh my goodness. But it's like, that's the way it is. So I say that to say this: if you don't prioritize the moments, if you don't appreciate love, life, and all these things that are going on around you while you're so consumed with the things you have to do and these tasks and these responsibilities, you're going to miss out on what's important. And me as a mother, now, I didn't miss out on having a child. I have a child. Well, she's grown now, but like, even right now, recording in the studio, this is time I probably could have went to the movies with her or something like that. Like, there have been times throughout my career, looking back, I come home and I'm tired, I'm dragging. And this is a part of being a single parent. You try to find energy where you don't have it. But it was just crazy because I was exhausted. Like, she'd be like, "Mommy, can we watch something on TV tonight?" All right, it's Friday night. Let's watch a movie. Put on whatever you want to put on. I'm gonna make some popcorn or some nachos, whatever. Go put shit in the microwave, whatever. 20 minutes into it, I'm knocked out. And those are the memories that my child has of us spending time together at home. There were times that I didn't, but there were a lot of times where when it wasn't like, when it was something she really wanted to do. And I try to make those moments special. All right, we're going to camp out on the floor. We used to have these little camp outs in the middle of the living room floor. And I remember those things as setting up, getting all the couch cushions and the mattress. I would get the mattress off my bed, put it on the floor. Like, we would just make this whole thing in the living room. And I remember those moments, and I'm like, well, what movie did we watch? And then she would tell me, well, I watched such and such, such and such. You fell asleep, Mommy. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Mommy was tired. She's like, I know, you worked hard. And even looking back, I'm like, damn. That was the day I should have told my job, you know what, I'm leaving early. I want to go spend some time with my child. This shit ain't going nowhere. Now, I do work in a time precious, job with payroll. Like, if I don't send payroll on us by a certain day and a certain time, everybody's checks are going to be fucked up. But that's only that time frame. Like, outside of that, I'm gonna take some time off. I don't have the luxury of taking a full 2 weeks off, but guess what? Why am I denied that? Like, some people we get all this vacation and can't take it. So it was like, then I didn't know that. Now I do. I'm like, look, That's what Robert Half and these other temp agencies are for. Because if I go on maternity leave, heaven forbid that something happened and I can't be here or can't physically do the job that I need to do for an extended period of time, not permanent but temporary, okay, there's a whole FMLA law out there that protects my rights as an employee. So even though we have these guidelines and these rules and these laws to protect us employment wise, we still don't set that boundary and tell our jobs no. We sacrifice our family, we sacrifice our mental health and our emotional health because the job has to get done. If I don't do it, they might fire me. Okay, get another fucking job. This is the same thing when it comes to family and friends and everyone else. And like I said, how this ties into the Single Chronicles is that when it's someone, like, people will assume, oh, well, you single, you ain't got nothing to do. Can you babysit? No. Who said I want to deal with your kid or anybody else's kid right now? You know what I mean? So people will get in that situation where they ask you, and you got to learn to not feel bad. And there's going to be times where you're like, you know what? Yeah, come on. Like, I remember my girlfriend, I know she needed a break. I think Frozen 2 came out. So I was like, yeah, I my daughter and your older daughter can hang out. I'll take your youngest off your hands. Plus, I want to see this movie. I'm not taking my grown ass 18, 17-year-old daughter, whatever, however old she was when that movie came out. Now you got a break. I get to see a movie that is totally marketed towards kids, not feel like a weirdo sitting by myself watching it. Not that I love watching movies by myself, but when you watch kiddie movies by yourself, it's just kind of weird because you're like there without a kid. It just kind of feels kind of gloomy, pedo-ish show, whatever. Anyway, the point is that I'm taking a kid that wants to see it. I want to see it. We're going to have a good time. Bam. Everybody wins in this situation. But there's going to be times where it's like, I can't do it. Like, I was supposed to go visit her. She lives in New York, and I was like, damn, every time something kept coming up. And then it was 1 week that I actually had the time, and I was just like, I'm exhausted. But then I look back and was like, you know what? I have to start setting these boundaries for myself and say, all right, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to have class tonight. Or maybe I'm not going to go to the studio. Speaking of which, before I go any further, there will not be an episode of the Single Chronicles next week. It's Passover. And I was going to say, oh, I'll go to the studio over the weekend, yada, yada, yada. No, we're taking a break. So we will reconvene in 2 weeks, not next week. So anyway, that's that. I got to this point in my head. I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe I got to start saying no, taking these breaks a little bit more. It's hard to communicate these boundaries, but it's not impossible. Sometimes you got to learn how to say no. So it might start out with this long, drawn out explanation, but we got to learn how to say no without being an asshole, but without giving a long, drawn out explanation. Because when you do this long explanation, this whole thing, it kind of feels like you're giving an excuse. But the best thing to do is say, you know what, no, this isn't a good time. No, can we circle back? Or no, that's just not working for me. You know what I mean? I'm swamped. I'm this. Like, sometimes, like me, I genuinely do be having a reason. If swamped, can't do it the day, whenever, is a person, that was me. But even if you don't have the schedule that I do, you gotta sit there and be honest and say, I don't think I can do this today. I'm sorry. Wish I could help. Let me know how it turns out. If something clears up in my schedule, I will. And sometimes it's not even about being physically unavailable. Sometimes it's just a mental thing. Sometimes I just physically, mentally, and emotionally do not feel like putting up or dealing with anybody right now. So you gotta be able to communicate boundaries. No is such a short word, but it's such a hard word to say. And I don't know why, but it is. Now, I take it back to childhood, because if you think about it, when you're younger, your parents tell you no. Mommy, Daddy, can I have X, Y, and Z? No. Why? Because I said so. So we're always constantly getting a no from our parents, and from, if I ask my job, can I get a raise? No, we gave you raises last year. No. It's not in the budget. Like, okay, that is a reason. It's legitimate. But sometimes when we grow up with, our parents don't give us that validation. They don't give us that reason or even brief explanation. It's just no, because I said so. And sometimes they do. They say, all right, if you tell your parents, like, hey, I'm going to go to such and such's friends after school. No, you can't go. That's a bad neighborhood, and I won't be able to pick you up or drop you off knowing that I feel safe doing, I feel safe doing it that way. You can go another time, but not now because that ain't the best neighborhood for you to just be walking and strolling. Okay, now you got an answer, you got an explanation. It's not overly explained, it doesn't feel like an excuse. You are validating the emotional, you know, turmoil that your kid is going through because you gave them a no, and you're giving them that explanation, that validation that they need because, hey, kids are still fucking people. They may not be able to vocalize and they may not have the shit that's all steamy and boiling in their heads like grown-ups do, but they still have valid emotions. Like, you still felt pain, anger, sadness, happiness. You felt all those emotions from the moment you came out of the womb. So when did that change? It's not that you don't become, your emotions should not be validated the minute you get grown. That's fucking retarded. So anyway, we grow up without that explanation. We grow up with this, we always hear because I said so. But then we are repeatedly told that we need to do something, or we're repeatedly required to say yes to demands and things that our parents want us to do without, just with just total, loyalty and just, you better not tell me no, you better do what I said. You know what I mean? It's like, well, why? So there has to be it's hard as a parent to find it. Like, even me, like, you can't, like, my daughter, your kids live in your house for free. Of course, you got to pay. You got to help me around this house. I got to go to work every day. Least I can do is come home to a clean house. It has to be not a quid pro quo, or, it doesn't have to be transactional per se. It has to be like, I don't want you to do stuff out of obligation. I want you to do it because you're pulling your weight and this is something that needs to be done. There's a difference between guilt tripping you to do some shit that I want you to do, instead of letting you know why this is important, that it needs to be done, and why it pays off in the long run, and why it's important. So finding that, because we're coming into this age of no, self-care, it's not selfish, whatever, but we're not really getting into the why of it, why it's important. And I wanted to really kind of get into that, and I'll get into that again because we're running out of time today. I don't want to be here all freaking night, and I don't want this to be an hour long podcast, but to be repeated, constantly demanded to say yes without, but no, I'm just not going to say anything else. Yes, it is what it is. That's what I'm. This is like the army. Yes, you can't say no. So that seed it cultivates. So we become a nation of yes people. And again, it's not a bad thing to say yes, even when you don't want to. And it's not a bad thing to say no when you can't. Boundaries are perfect. Like, we're learning to set these boundaries. And I'm glad I'm learning to set the boundaries. I'm glad I'm learning to say no. Like, I was stressing myself out, like, about Passovers coming up. Oh my God, gotta get ready for Passover. I got class. Then I got this. Then I got the podcast on Friday. But Friday, and I'm like, wait a minute. Passover starts on Sunday. There's no way in hell that I'm going to be able to record this podcast at the studio, then go home and try to hurry up and have a seat. No, it's not going to work that way, bro. Rose canceled the show for 1 week. It's just 1 week. And then I said, there's nothing wrong with that. I've taken breaks before. So, and I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? But I thoroughly enjoy doing this. I thoroughly enjoy putting this content out there. So, sometimes when I can't do it, like just like with Zumba class, like, I went, how many times I taught Zumba when I was physically in some pain, not knowing, probably should have sat my ass down. But I've, in the past, like December, before I got COVID, I was like, hey, I'm going to take a break. And I had planned it. I was going to take like a week off, wasn't going to do the podcast that week, wasn't going to have classes that week. I was just going to take a week off. But lo and behold, the Most High said, you want to take off more. And the ironic thing was, I wasn't even sick with COVID. Now, I test weekly because it's a requirement of having an exemption at work. But, so I knew that I had it. You know what I mean? I was like, all right. Luckily, I had took that week off, then got tested positive. Like, my mother exposed us to it again. And I was like, Damn, she gave it to my daughter. My daughter gave it to me. I was lucky for the last 2 years. I was lucky. Never caught the shit for like a year and some change. And then I caught it this time, but it was the Omicron. So I didn't like where some people felt like the flu or the cold. Like my daughter and my mom was in the bed. It was, and I'm sitting up there bored out of my mind. I'm like, oh, Call of Duty, shoot some shit. Take this frustration off of me. And or it was like I would take walks with the dog, and I have my mask on and I try to keep my distance. Plus I'm walking a pit bull, so I ain't gotta worry about social distancing with a pit bull. People cross the street anyway. So regardless, it was like the universe had a message and I didn't heed to it. Well, I was about to heed to it, and because I was about to come into the studio regardless. And I ended up being benched for 2 extra weeks. Shit, technically 3, because I had to wait to get a test because everybody was testing, couldn't get one, and I didn't want to be around other people without testing. So yeah, I mean, the good thing was I had virtually no symptoms. I think I just felt a little lethargic. And I was like, once I went running with the dog and walking her off, I felt better. Came in the house. I was cooking. I was cleaning. I was doing all types of shit. I'm like, this supposed to be COVID? Whatever. All right. So anyway, that's all I really wanted to talk about today. Setting these boundaries, saying no, prioritizing your mental and your emotional, not just your physical. Sometimes saying that no is just like, yeah, I can't fucking do it today. I'm sorry. And sometimes you have to set that limit with yourself, not just other people. It's easy to tell somebody you don't fuck with no. It's easy to tell some, like, you see the homeless person on the street, oh, can I get some change? No, full on, well, you got at least $2 in your pocket. You're like, no, you probably gonna get high with it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's easy to say no because you don't feel any obligation. You don't feel bad. You're not going to see this person. Shit. If it's some illegal shit, it's easy to say no because it's like, I don't want to go to jail. But when it's something that doesn't have any moral obligations or whatever, or it's a person you love, or it's yourself, it's very, very hard to say no. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I got a bright little light today. I'm kind of not looking directly at it, but I'm happy with my new LED light. It's a little smaller than my big one that I constantly got to lug around. And I haven't really been bringing a light into the studio, but the lighting over here on this side of the room is just like really dark. So I was like, I need some better lighting. So I'm hoping that this video turns out better on YouTube. Next up is to get another mic for the YouTube because the one that's attached to this camera, it's always feedback and it's just a mess. But the podcast mic that I use, this one I have no problems with it. So I'll figure that out. If you know, hit me up and let me know. But that's what I had to talk about today. We're going to go on to the writer's reflections. I don't have a sponsor or a small business spotlight of the week. I will have one when I reconvene. If you know someone you want to spotlight on the podcast, shoot me a DM or an email or a text. Send it to me. If you've already been spotlighted, I'm not going to spotlight you again. You got to pay for your promo. But I want to spotlight small businesses, local businesses, whatever. And if you know somebody you want to recommend for the Single Chronicles podcast, send them my way and I will spotlight them. Heard around the world, whatever. Anyway, on to the writer's reflections, and I do have some promotional news. Okay, so like I said, I didn't have a particular promo sponsor, small business spotlight of the week. However, I do want to talk about some things that I got going on, and that is my merch store. Check out the merch store. I got a lot of stuff in there. I got the single stuff. I got the Zumba stuff, twerk outs. Well, not Zumba. I don't sell Zumba stuff, but I do sell Zumba stuff through Zumba. Anyway, I just want to make that clear. I don't want no legalities coming on me like you can't sell our brand. I am a licensed, I am able to give you a promo code for Zumba if you want to do that. So just hit me up for the Zumba stuff. But anyway, this is not talking about them. This is talking about the the merch store that I got. Insomniac merch. You want to go over to insomniacwritermerch.creator-spring.com. Don't worry, it'll be down there somewhere. I'm having another sale, another flash sale. All you got to do is put flash 25. If you want to do that, do it. Save you 25%. Also, I have the option of can't get it together, free shipping. Use promo code ship for free and you can get whatever you want from my merch store shipped to you for free. Now don't be a cheap ass. Don't be like, all right, I'm gonna order a mask and get free shipping, or get 25% off. The mask ain't that damn expensive. But if you get like a t-shirt or a coffee mug or a tumbler or a poster, whatever you get, you can save it. And the t-shirts are pretty kicking. I do have some new designs that I'm unveiling in about a week or so, but definitely use that promo code. And this is just special for my subscribers, listeners, viewers. You know, Flash 25 is just for y'all. I guess for anybody. I don't give a shit who uses it. But that's your promo for the month, for the week. And also another thing, shop my wellness shop too. Allergy season is coming up. I have a tea that is good for that. The Love Yourself shop. I got you covered. Or if you're feeling sniffles from other stuff, I got something for that. Menopause, I definitely got something for that. But what I really want to highlight is the Love Yourself Love Potion. Now, how that works is that this potion is specifically guaranteed to help you ladies get a little moister than you normally do, and you guys to be at attention and be at it longer. Because I'm mad at the amount of people taking Viagra these days, and y'all be younger than me taking Viagra or having to take Percocets and all sorts of stupid shit, like, or drink Henny. Like, can we not be under the influence of a drug to get it in? But whatever. So check out that Love Yourself potion, and if it don't work, and I guarantee that it will, I guarantee everything in my shop. If it don't work, I got you covered, and I might even give you a refund, maybe. Anyway, no, just take my word for it and go shop the Love Yourself Wellness. All right, that is our promo for today. That went longer because y'all got like 3 in 1, and I'll leave links to all of that down below. But yeah, that's that. On to the writer's reflections, and we are out of here. Okay, guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning into the Single Chronicles. Today, we talked about saying no and why it is a big, important part of your self-care. Setting boundaries is something that a lot of us struggle with, but the vast majority of us are doing it, and we're realizing how important it is because you're seeing a lot more of that. And I think the pandemic brought that out a little bit more, because I saw a rise in those types of videos, and even saw a TED Talk, a rise in the last 2 years. And that's because people were burning out. They were putting more pressure on themselves that they didn't need to, and it just was hard to just say no. You felt obligated. You felt bad if you said no. You felt guilty, like, oh my God, if I don't do it, I feel bad, or, and I learned this, is that if a person needs to get something done, they will get it done. And I look at the times where there wasn't anyone there to do something for me. If it needed to get done, I got it done. So don't feel bad when you can't physically or mentally be somewhere or do something that you can't do. The universe was pointing in a direction that I needed to be pointed in, and it kept telling me, I kept getting these signs about setting boundaries, obligations, contracts, things that I needed to negotiate, because I was giving myself so little wiggle room that I wasn't able to be sociable, but I also wasn't rested. And I was like, you know what, that stops today. I am not going to be, I'm always going to be the drunken insomniac writer. But even when I shed the drunken part from my active lifestyle, I don't be getting drunk like I used to. It's time to start kind of pushing that insomniac thing. The whole insomnia thing, it was cool when I was in my teens and 20s, and even to some extent my 30s. But now I'm in my 40s, and I had to learn that it'll get done. If it's not meant to get done, guess what? Someone else will do it. So I say that to say this: set boundaries, have self-care, make time for you, because you only have one you. And when I look back at being a mother, that was the biggest, the hardest pill to swallow is looking back and knowing that a lot of the memories my daughter had with me, don't get me wrong, a lot of the memories were fun and good, but there were memories she had of me passed out on a couch or not there or working. And it wasn't to say that I missed out on her childhood, like, I was there, but I could have been more. I could have done more. And you can't live in a room of regret, I wish I could have did, should have did, would have did. But what you got to do is just say, hey, I did the best I could. And going forward, I know now to try to make myself a little bit more readily available and put my self-care needs ahead of all the obligations. Because, people will make you feel guilty. They'll make you say, hey, I did this for you. That transactional love, that quid pro quo, that guilting, that is not normal. It's actually kind of toxic. So don't put yourself in a position to be made to feel guilty for something you can't do. If you can't do it, you can't do it. So that's all I really wanted to talk about that today. And I put myself in the accountability corner because I realized when I was mentally and physically breaking down, when I was just going through it, it was the result of me not setting a boundary and not allowing myself the rest that I need mentally or emotionally. Not having my brain just go all the time. And the fact that I'm not getting much sleep, like I'm getting 5 to 6 hours a night, which is okay, but still not good enough. Now I'm like, oh gosh, here I go. I'm burnt out. I just want to go home and crash or just lay and do nothing. And sometimes doing nothing is doing something. So I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I didn't have a sponsor this week, but be sure to check out the wellness shop and my merch store. Check out those deals I got going on this week. And I will not be here on, I believe that that's the 17th or the 18th. There will be no podcast on the 18th. I will reconvene and resume on the 25th. That week, if I can, I probably will post some content to YouTube. I actually will, but it won't be a podcast episode. So thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I'm going to end this like I always do, and that is with be awesome, be you, but above all else, love yourself. And that's very important today. Love yourself. Please say no if you have to. If you can't do it, you don't feel like doing it, there's a reason why. Don't deny yourself that right of self-care. So that's all I wanted to talk about. And I ain't even fussed today. Look at that. All right, guys, take care.